Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder, and also outside of War Thunder, it's time to talk to a community member from the Tech Hub and also from the channel called faceguy. And what we're going to be doing today is looking at an interesting find he found while he was out and about, and also just chat to him about it, because it's always interesting getting stories from you guys, not just from in the game, but also in the outside world. If any of you are interested in doing videos like this, or just sitting down and having a chat about a specific topic, I'm always interested, so make sure to hit me up in the direct messages, mainly on the Discord, because that's normally what I check. So, faceguy, how are you doing, and what's the interesting find that you found for us today?
All right. Well, I'm doing well. It's good to be here with you. Thank you. So I was on my way home from work the other day. I am an air traffic controller at Top Gun at Naval Air Station Fallon, and I was on my way home. I only live a few miles off base, and there's a truck stop about a block from my house, and I came across an M901 on the back of a truck. And at first I saw the M113 chassis when I was driving by, and I didn't really think anything of it, but then I took another look, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's the Wally turret. I recognize that. So I turned my car around, decided to go get another look, and sure enough, when I drove up, it was indeed an M901. The truck driver was fueling up his truck, and I asked if I could take a few pictures, and he said that I can have all the time that I want. So I decided to go ahead and start documenting the interesting find, especially because I thought, this would be something cool to share with the War Thunder community, considering a lot of us have either, purchased it with Golden Eagles or are in the process of researching it for the squadron event.
Yeah, it's being one of the squadron vehicles available. You've got the PR-35, the Firecrest, and of course the M901, which you should be seeing in a picture right now. It's definitely one which many have been going through, and it's always interesting to see like it's in real life. Obviously, a lot of community members in War Thunder have a lot of ties to the military, whether it's family or whether it is directly. So it's always nice to see it, in the flesh. So let's get into it. The first picture we're having a look at is a side profile. So what were your initial thoughts on seeing this thing? What did you think the size was quite large, or did you just think it looked pretty normal?
I've seen M113 chassis before. I'm kind of familiar with how large the vehicle itself is. I was a little bit surprised to see how small the turret was in person, though. I would think that a twin tow launcher would be a little bit bigger, but it's really not. So I can understand why in the game, for instance, when you see one of these things hiding behind a hill and just the little tiny turret sticking over, just looking at you like a pair of eyes, that's all you get. Um, It doesn't seem like it's as tall when it's laying down as well, but you can see the amount of room that it has to stand up when it's all the way up. It's was stored in the configuration that it would be that we're used to when the vehicle's in motion in the game, and then we stop and it sets itself up again. So the turret is actually facing to the rear.
And then we have another side profile picture of it, and as you can see the back of the front of the turret, which is also the back of the turret, looking on the back. And
Yes.
the main thing, at least to me, is when I look at it, I agree that the turret looks incredibly small, but to be honest, like it looks also kind of spacious in a way. When it comes to the hull itself, as a person who isn't too familiar with M113s, I'm much more familiar with the British standard that we use. The fact is, it looks, well, very much like a box on wheels, and I'm guessing that's pretty much what it was designed for, to carry different weapon systems and also other things.
I mean, I'm in the Navy, so I haven't actually been inside of a M113 before in terms of an active duty one being used, but I'm familiar with the chassis as well as a few of the other types because it's just something that has always interested me. I've been to a lot of museums, I've been to a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of these things before. So I also have a few friends that are Marines, that kind of go back a little bit, so some of them have had experience with the vehicles themselves in action.
And then the next picture, so there seems to be a bunch of, writings on the back and general stuff. Is there anything we can actually glean from this, or is it just random graffiti?
I'm frankly not entirely sure. All of it is government markings. I do not know the extent of what a lot of them mean. I'm pretty sure some of them might just be serial numbers of sorts or storage numbers just to keep track of the vehicles that are in certain places at given times. And then also there you can see the front of the turret, the business end, a little bit more clearly in that picture. Other than that, most of the markings, I think, like I said, they're kind of just there. I really don't know what most of them mean. Funny enough, though, the little white piece of paper you see to the right of the door there actually is the price tag of the vehicle. Um, it is nearly 400,000 United States dollars. And if you wanted to go buy yourself an M901, I guess contact your local friendly Uncle Sam and see what you can do.
Yeah, it looks like it's $393,062. So if you've just got that lying around, you could get
Yeah.
yourself a 901. God.
You could go get yourself a dream mansion, or you can get yourself an M901.
Yeah. It's really the world's your oyster at that point. So the next thing we're looking at is obviously the interior of the vehicle, and you were able to get inside, right? Like, was it fully unlocked, or was it just only a certain area which was?
So that M901 there, when I was taking pictures, the truck driver said, "Hey, do you know how to get inside this thing?" And I said, "Well, there's the door, there's the driver's hatch, there's the gunner's hatch. It just depends on what's open." So the gunner's hatch, as you can see from the light coming through, and the driver's hatch were not even attached to the vehicle. They were actually sitting on the inside of the bed of it. I didn't get pictures of them though. So I just popped myself on in, and there I went.
So it was just fully unlocked, like nothing was closed or anything. Like there was no
Yeah.
need for keys or or anything like that. You could just pop yourself
No,
in.
I'm fairly certain the vehicle had been in storage somewhere in the middle of the desert for a long time, and no one's going to bother them out there.
Hmm. So when we look at this picture, you have the little bit on the left, which seems to be some sort of sitting area. Then on the right, is that the gunner's area? Or
Yes,
yeah.
so the forward right, like at the far right, you can see the engine compartment. The actual panels for that are missing, so you can see the engine. Just before that, though, that little chair is the gunner's chair, with the apparatus above it being the fire control mechanisms.
And then if we go even further to that on the front left, that is the driver's position.
Yes, you can see the two handles for steering, the pedal. One thing that's kind of cut off is the gear shift that is on the right wall beside the pedals. And then the radio stack is also over there, along with the starters and all of that.
Yeah, so even from this position, it seems, at least to me, there's a lot more room than that would meet the eye. And at least, decent, comfortable positions for the majority of the crew.
Yeah, and it's not like this vehicle's in great condition. There wouldn't be as much junk laying around the inside of it or anything. It would be a lot more organized. The little bench there, I believe, probably could sit 3 or 4 people if you really wanted to. So it's probably where the crew would be sitting, if the vehicle was in transit or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next picture we have here now is this located at the back of the vehicle, or is this located behind the gunner's position? Where is this located?
Yes, War Thunder actually gets it right. It is in the back right-hand corner of the vehicle. So that is the ammo rack in the exact same position that it is in the game. And also, just like in the game, you can see one, two, three, four, five, six. Let me make sure I'm looking at that right. One, two, three, four, five. Yep, 6 rockets. So you can have the total of 8, the 2 in the chamber, and then the 6 in the rack. And if you look, the darker green panel that's at the top of the left-hand side of the picture there, that is the hatch that opens up that allows you to load the tows without having to exit the vehicle.
Oh, okay. So that's fair enough. That's obviously a mechanism that is kind of automated in War Thunder, but definitely I mean, obviously it's manually loaded in real life, right? There's no automated mechanism there.
No, you have to lift up the tow missile up on inside. I would have been able to open that hatch. That didn't seem like it was attached to anything, but because of the configuration of the turret and the driving position, the turret was laying down over top of it, and I couldn't open it.
Ah, yeah, of course. That makes sense. Now, the next one is some form of cupola. Is this for the commander or the gunner, or where is this located?
That is the gunner's cupola. Normally, in game at least, you would have the little, almost dome-looking cover over the top of it. And that is the gunner's basically little area. That is the fire control area. You can see the arming switches. You can see the turret steering, little steering wheel almost. It's still moved, but it obviously didn't manipulate the turret because there's no power applied. And you can see the sight there as well in the center, although that was not operational.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on here, and it's amazing how you have this massively spacious vehicle, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty stuff, such as the sights and such as the whole FCS system, it's all so compact compared to everything else, which makes sense, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I've been inside of a few other vehicles before, mostly at museums and shows, and it really shows you how much you can put in a little bit of space if you really want to.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one is obviously a close-up of the fire control system itself. And so do you want to kind of talk us through this? Or what you personally saw?
Yeah, so there you go. Zooming in on it really helps a lot. So you have the turret on and off, obviously. So when the vehicle is being used or not, you can turn the turret on or off, whether you want it to move or not at all when you manipulate the controls. It would be useful for during maintenance, say they're operating on the turret and they don't want it to go anywhere, but Private Johnny decides to switch it on and, knock Private Billy off the top of the vehicle when they're fixing it, because he bumps into the controls, you never know about that. So they have the option to turn it off to Private Billy proof it. And then you have your dimmer, that's just your light controls. Going down, your lamp test, that just as simple as that, just turns on the lights, make sure they work. So for the turret, you have three different modes. You have stopped, which is not operational. You have erect, which is when the turret goes up into firing mode. And then you have load, which is where the turret will lean back to allow you to load it.
It's so crazy how it's such a simple system, but it like literally just by turning a knob slightly, it always just kind of blows my mind how much just one little mechanism does in a system like this.
Oh yeah, it's very user friendly. It really is. It helps out, It's not like any military is really trying to design anything too complicated for anybody. We're always just trying to make it, as user friendly for our military members as possible.
Oh, of course, because I mean, it's not even a lowest common denominator thing. It's just a sense thing, isn't it? You want to make technology as easy as possible. So, if something does go wrong, then it's either easy to fix or the fact that you want to be able to train people quickly on these machines if required.
So the bottom two are the real business ends. So you have your missile select. So in the game, you can only shoot, I think it's the left, then the right, and you don't get the option to shoot the other first. Or am I backwards? I don't remember. But in real life, you could switch between which missile you want to shoot at any given time. And then of course, you have the arm and the safe switch. So you have just an extra measure of, do I really want to fire this missile? In War Thunder, we don't think twice about it because we see enemy must shoot, that's, how it is. But in real life, there's a lot more that goes into pulling the trigger. There's a lot more thinking involved. There's a lot more, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah, there's a lot more checks and balances, especially when, unfortunately, in real life, there are quite a lot of incidents where Let's just say there are wrong targets acquired every so often.
Yes. Thankfully, the M901 is completely a manually aimed system, so I would guess that friendly identification is a little bit easier with this. It's not relying on an automated system, maybe like a radar-guided missile would, but there's always the measure of security that you need to have just in case.
Yeah, exactly. Now the next picture is obviously a close-up of the driver's area, and it looks once again pretty simple. We have some controls at the top. Do these?
Yeah, I believe those are light controls, so I believe that's how you turn on your different lights. So probably your cat eyes, your headlights, all those kind of things.
Yeah, so that's just simple light controls, and then on the left, we have some sort of leveler. What would that be for? Do you know?
So that, if I'm not mistaken, is what tells you how far of a degree of turn you're doing.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So that way, like, if, the commander's like, hey, driver, turn us 20 degrees to the right, you can, easily figure out 20 degrees. I could be wrong. I'm not entirely familiar with that. I haven't seen one of those before, but that's just a good educated guess that would probably make sense.
Yeah, and also it's once again it's one of these incredibly simple systems. Like there's no reason to overcomplicate it, which is lovely to see.
There, you're just passing it on the right side is the gear shift, so that dusty old little knob right there. It's still moved, so that means the transmission is still in that vehicle somewhere. And but you obviously can't really put it into gear when it's tied down to a trailer.
Yeah, it's also it looks like it's not in exactly the best nick, or at least the mechanism itself.
No, it's a little bit beat up and old.
Then we have what seem to be three switches. What's that? The stop engine, push before start, throttle, and air vent, which is, I'm guessing, turn on, turn off, and something, well.
Turn on, turn off, and see how much heat you're getting.
Simple as. Like it was really interesting. I've been looking into not really old designs, but like Panzer IVs and T-34 interiors, and it's amazing to me how there is just one button for like start and stop, and that's it. Like
Yes.
it's not overcomplicated at all. It's literally just hit the button, turn the engine on, hit the other button, turn it off. Like it,
I
it's
mean,
it's
it's the same
amazing.
case for a lot of aircraft as well. I mean, despite all of the things you have to do to, start it up, your master switch, your avionics, your all your other switches you have to turn on, ultimately just to start the engine is usually a single or a couple button presses. It's not that hard once you get everything else set up.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the driving position is pretty standard, at least compared to what I've seen.
One other interesting thing is that if you zoom in on the lower left or closer to the middle, but more lower left, above those straps there, down and to the left, right there. So you see that little clamp looking thing that you just had your cursor over. So that is actually a rifle holder. So if, the vehicle was in an active combat situation, the driver, and there's the second one to the left of it, even though it's cut off a little tiny bit. The driver and another crew member could easily have access to a rifle if they needed it.
Oh, well, there you go. That's kind of interesting.
I believe it's designed to fit the M16, the M4, and I doubt it would fit something like an M240. Probably wouldn't, so I'd probably just limit it to the two rifles.
Yeah, it's still a nice little detail, though. I like that. The next position is a little bit. Wait, is this just slightly higher than the position that we're at, or where is this?
So you can actually see the left driving handle right there. So this is still the driver's area. These are some of the gauges that you help monitor the engine with.
And also, you can see the other rifle holder that you were talking about.
Also, at the top of the picture, you can see the driver's ports. They were very yellowed and cracked, so I couldn't really get any good pictures out of them, so that's why I don't have any here. but you can still see the light coming through them, so they're still, quote unquote functional, but they're not picture worthy really.
Yeah, not serviceable, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
the yeah, so we've got all the dials here, which will pretty much tell you how the engine is doing. There doesn't seem to be anything that's too non-standard here.
No, you have your RPM, you have your electric charge, your oil temperature, your fuel, so it's very simple.
Yeah, looks like it's a little bit worse for wear, but I mean, you'd expect that with time.
Yeah. I was kind of lucky there wasn't a rattlesnake sitting in the bottom of the vehicle.
God, can you imagine? Because where did they tell you where this was from?
It was from some storage armory. I forget which one it was. The massive outdoor storage boneyard kind of things. We have them for aircraft, we have them for tanks. Um, I mean, heck, in San Francisco Bay, we even had one for ships for a long time. Um, so it varies. I don't remember exactly what storage they told me this one was coming from.
Yeah, for me, I remember it was either when I was in Arizona or Utah. We went past like this huge, what felt like cemetery of planes, and it was just I'd never seen anything like it, and I've never seen anything like it again. Like it's kind of mind-boggling how much machinery is kind of just left in these areas, which has either not really stood the test of time or is just not required anymore.
Yeah, it just depends on what type of equipment it is. If it's declassified, decommissioned equipment, we'll usually boneyard it like that. Whereas other aircraft, like the F-117, for instance, I was reading an article not too long ago about that. The remainder of those are at the Tonopah Test Range here in Nevada, and or Tonopah, however you guys want to say it. Nevada, Nevada, it's that endless argument. Um, and those have to be stored and disassembled in a special way. They can't just be boneyarded and taken apart by, a wrecking ball kind of thing. They have to be specialized in their deconstruction. So it does vary. You were probably seeing a lot of aircraft like old B-52s, old F-4, well, not F-14s anymore. Those have been all cut up, but just various aircraft, F-15s, probably 16s, and all of that.
Yeah, those are a lot of B-52 parts, I'd say. Obviously, not whole airframes and stuff like that, but you could definitely tell that whatever was there had been. Well, there was no way you could bring it back in service. It was just kind of there to be there. It'd
Oh,
probably
you'd
be.
be amazed.
Yeah, maybe. Well, well, we've got to. Go ahead.
There have been a couple cases of B-52s in particular being brought back from the dead, but it really varies and just depends on what you need.
Yeah, so this is another picture of the driver's section. It's a little bit higher than the other one, and it just gives you a good picture of the visual ports. Is there anything else in this picture we want to have a look at?
In that picture, no, there's nothing else interesting we haven't already covered.
Just the visual ports themselves. The next picture is a panoramic periscope. So where's this located on the vehicle?
So that is on the left side of the vehicle. It actually is behind the driver. So it is where it is in the game as well, as part of the optics array. And this is what we would get, I guess, in game as your binocular view. And it's it was interesting to see it, oh, hey, look, it's the periscope. But then, the next picture was what really got me. And sure enough, the little thing still worked. So I spun it around to look at some cars in a parking lot across the street, and there's your little view inside of the periscope.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that it still gives a pretty good quality through the periscope itself.
And when I was looking at it through my actual eyes, it comes through a lot clearer. That was as good as I could line up my phone with it, at the moment.
Oh, it's still amazing though how I mean, there's a lot of parts of this that I would have just loved to like try and like jig away from the machine and try and keep for myself, and this would definitely be one of them. Just because of how it's always interesting seeing these, especially when it comes to the sights and stuff, how they all work.
Yeah, yeah, and it's still rotated, so that was still good. I didn't figure out if there was a way to elevate it or not, but that is what it is. I at least got that picture.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It's and was there any more of these periscopes, or was this just a singular one in the area?
That was the only one, at least that I'm aware of. I didn't see anything else like it anywhere else in the vehicle. You can see how much dust is on it, so that tells you that it's been sitting for a long time.
And the next picture. So the next picture shows how well there was more than one, wasn't there?
Oh yes, it was one thing to be crawling around the inside of the far M901, and I hear another truck pull up. I pop out of the driver's hatch for a sec, and sure enough, oh my goodness, there's two of them. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the second one actually is where the better interior views come from, although the periscope was from the first one. The second one was a lot better condition on the inside, so that's why I got more interior pictures on that one. And the door, the entry door in the back of the vehicle was open. So I was able to access that one a lot easier for the better pictures. The other one I actually had to only enter through the driver's hatch.
Yeah. So the it seems like they were moving at least more than one, at least two, and it still amazes me how they were just fully open to go around. And as you said, like obviously they're kind of old tech nowadays, but still it's always interesting to see.
I mean, there is a chance that, here at Naval Air Station Fallon, where I'm stationed, we do a lot of bombing practice. We do a lot of target practice. That's what we do. We're a training facility for Top Gun and for squadrons that visit. There is a chance that, a Navy F-18 might put a, JDAM through one of these at some point in the near future. You never know.
Yeah, and it always feels like a waste when it happens, but unfortunately, people do have to train.
It's the government using government resources for traveling. If no one else is going to use them, might as well put them to some sort of use.
Yeah, exactly.
I have seen a couple pictures of older tanks. I'm pretty sure what's left of an M60 I've seen out there in the ranges. So, it varies.
But I'm talking about, talking about taking souvenirs. Like I said, it would be nice to have taken something like that periscope or maybe just a part of the vehicle. You did snag a little thing, didn't you?
I did. So, next to the driver's compartment is a little panel, which is the vehicle identification tag. And I have a little closer up picture there. And so the truck drivers were very nice. They said, hey, you can take anything that you can get with a screwdriver because, we don't really care. No one's checking these vehicles out. And so I'm like, hey, I can take one of these off with the flathead screwdriver. So I, hammered that off and I took that with me. So that is the combat vehicle M90 improved tow vehicle M901A1. It's the same thing we have in the game.
Yeah, and it just seems to, but it basically just seems to tell you about the machine and where to find specific ideas about it. And it's a part of history now, in a way.
It really is. And, one thing War Thunder got right is the 40-mile-an-hour top speed. No nerfs there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, it's been wonderful going through these pictures, and it's always nice, as I said, bringing the idea of games and real life into one nice little area. So I just want to thank you for coming on and obviously chatting about this thing. Do you have any last thoughts or things you want to talk about?
I actually have a couple other pictures that I've taken because I got an interesting bug, funny enough, in War Thunder that allowed me to see the inside of the M901 in-game. So I got the weird thing where your vehicle gets the destroyed animation but still functions. So I quickly just grabbed my phone and took the pictures that you can see. But it's kind of interesting how some of the things match up.
Yeah, there's so this is the pitch you can see here, and one of the things that has always amazed me, generally about War Thunder is just the attention to detail of stuff. Like if I'm not sure if you can do it in replays, but with the NVIDIA Ansel like system that you get with the NVIDIA graphics card, you can actually go inside of tanks, and a lot of tanks have a very standard definition modeled. So you've got the breach, you've got the sitting areas and the ammo and everything. So
Yeah.
there is kind of interiors to vehicles, but obviously not as shiny and polished as the outsides. But it's lovely to see it modeled in somewhere. But no, yeah, you can see on the inside, at least on this picture, there is at least some form of an interior modeled, and it always makes you think, will War Thunder ever get to that point of interior play? Now, I personally don't think it'll ever get there, but it's always a nice little pipe dream,
Yeah.
that will hopefully maybe eventually happen. But anyway, after looking at all of this stuff, it's wonderful. Like, and as I said before, if any of you want to come on and have a chat about something like this, or go through and just look at some pictures of maybe history, or maybe things you've seen. Maybe you've gone around a museum and you want to have a chat about, what you've seen. The channels are open if you want to come on, just like faceguy has done here and done a wonderful job going through this stuff. So make sure just to hit me up and, kind of do
And
the same thing.
if any of y'all have any questions for me as well, you can find me around the Tech Hub. I'm usually around. Pinging me, sure, go for it. I may or may not respond right away depending on what I'm doing. But, if you guys have questions about military aviation in general, whether it's, modern or old, air traffic control, all of that, that is my life. So that's what I do. So I'd, love to talk with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, faceguy, for coming up, and thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Eel of Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.